I think Afforai and tools like it are going to be the future of reference managers and academic research because it combines reference managing and AI together. As you can see on their website, it's complex research made simple. If we take a look into what they call the notebook, you can see I've actually already read a few academic papers and a book. This is actually a book PDF that I've brought in, and you can do this in a few different ways. So the first option, which is the one that I used first, is uploading a file. You can upload a PDF, a document, so a Word document, a TXT file, a Markdown file, EPUB, and PPTX, which is a PowerPoint. So going into my folder, you can see I use Zotero, so inside of my Zotero storage, I have a PDF. If I drag the PDF in, it then shows I'm going to upload a file, and you can bulk upload files. So if you've got 10, 15, 20 files you want to upload, you can do. So I'm going to push upload. Down in the bottom right, it now has a progress, 67%, 89%, 100%, and now I have that article. Once I've clicked on the article, I can then check the information, so the file name, so what is the name of the article, the file ID, uploaded by me, because we can have shared information, which I'll show you later, the date updated, which is of course today. Then over in the citations tab, it gives us all the citation information that we may need. For best practice, it's worth having a check just to make sure that the titles come in, the authors, and the date, because that is what most citation references are going to use. But it's also worth taking note of DOI, because the DOI number is like an ID, it's like a reference for the paper, and the DOI is another option at which we can bring reference papers in. If I'm looking for a paper, let's use this one as an example, you can see we've got research articles, published, volume, but no matter where the article is, you will find a DOI. Every website will look slightly different, and if I click on cite this article, it takes me all the way down, you see, to the bottom of the page, and there is the DOI. Now we've got a number and an address. So I'm going to copy the DOI, go to upload a URL, paste, because we've got the HTTPS as a URL, upload, and you can see now it's got 36, 70%, and you can see it's now been added into the library. If we go back and just use the DOI, so copy, and then upload DOI, go there and paste. You can see it's doing the exact same thing, examination of gave behaviors, and now we have it in again. To close down this right sidebar, I'm going to click on the expand button. You can open and close with that expand button, but you can see on this side here it says indexed, and this is something worth paying attention to for the AI capabilities. Every time an item is brought into Afforai, it will try and index it so the AI can read the information and then use it when you're asking questions, which we'll go over later. But when it comes to organizing all of these, you can see here we've got the library and then some folders and subfolders. When I hover over a folder, it gives me a right-click menu, so I can right-click and then I can download files, export citations, generate a citation. So if we go on to this file, right-click and say generate citation, I then get the option to pick any of the citation formats. It then shows you a preview of the citations, copy to clipboard, and then you can put it in wherever you're writing. This being the long version, so the bibliography, this goes at the end of the article, and then the citation, that would be what you put inside or inline the article. If I was, for example, to have all of these in one of my papers, I could right-click on the folder, go generate citation, and then it gives me a list of all of the papers for the citation, or if I go to bibliography, there's the bibliography of all of those papers and book. Some of you may have noticed that I've got 7. I've got 1 inside of the effective coaching. You can see an integrated definition, 1 inside of fun, which is towards athletes having fun, nothing inside of youth athletes, but we have 5 in unsorted. And these are things that haven't been sorted into any folder. So if I left click and drag the becoming a sports coach into effective coaching, now it will go from the unsorted folder and go into the effective coaching folder. You can see now we've got the 2 in there. But we also have these green dots, and they are the tags. So if I left click and go over to the information sidebar, down underneath the information is the tag. At the moment we've got a done tag, also located in the bottom left. So if I right click, I can rename, change the color, and I can do the same if I right click over into the tag, rename, change the color, and here I can also remove. Let's go to my library and say, I'm going to rename this banana tag to read. Enter, and actually want to change that to red. And so I can left click, drag, and say, I want to read that paper. And now we have the tag. So if I click on to read, it filters for to read. If I click on done, it filters for done and to read. If I deselect to read. Now it's just the done papers. Going up to the top left, we have add library. So at the moment, it's Danny's library. If I click on add library, I can create a shareable library, or I can look for shared library invites because someone may have created one in Afforai and invited me to it. So I'm going to create my own and call it shared library, enter. And now this library, it's separate from my personal one. But if I grab this paper and say, okay, this is to read, I'm going to drag it in the shared library. Now it's gone from my library to the shared library, which when I go over to the library 3 dots, I can then invite people or manage the team because this is my library. So I can invite people and put their emails in, send invites, and then we can all work on this paper together. Now, before we go in and have a look at the paper, there is also an import items button. And for this, I'm going to go into Zotero very quickly. So I'm going to click on the top item and then go down to just a couple, right click and then say export items. And what I want to do is export it in an RIS format. So it's all the way down here, RIS. You can also use CFF, but I'm going to choose this one. I'm going to go export notes. Okay, and then I'm going to save this inside of my G drive. And now back in Afforai, if I go to import items, you can see it's looking for RIS, that's what we did, BibTeX, and CFF. So left click, there's the exported items.ris, double click, and what Afforai has done is looked for any open access papers. So there's no PDF found, there is for these two, none for those three, but there is for this one. So upload, and now it's imported those items into the shared library because that's the one that I had. If I go to Danny's library, and let's say double click on towards understanding youth athletes, I'm now in what it calls a Afforai notebook. So if we go to the last tab, this is the library. This is the main area where we're storing and finding and navigating all of the items. But inside of this view, I can then interact with the paper. You can see I've actually already done some highlights here, and I've actually already asked AI a couple of questions. So you can see I've asked Claude 3 Haiku to summarize this highlighted point. But AI is not a replacement to our critical thinking, so how do we actually go through this paper without AI first? At the top, we've got the zoom in and zoom out. We've got the page numbers. We then have a color for the highlight. I personally use yellow. And then we have 3 different highlight options. We've got text highlight, which you can see here. So when I click, I can then highlight any of the text and it will go yellow. Now when I left click, it brings up the highlight. No comment. If this was in a shared library, I could then comment some of the other users that I'm sharing this with, some of the other academics or researchers I'm working with. But I don't actually want that highlight, so I'm going to right click and then hold delete for 3 seconds and it's gone. The other option is an area highlight, often used for images. So let's scroll down and you can see here we've got an image. So I'm going to highlight this image and the figure bit down the bottom. And now I've got a highlight on top of the image or a schematic or whatever else you want to highlight in the paper. But then there also is a sticky note. So maybe I want to add a sticky note to this one instead and just say, I need to understand this more. So I'm going to save that as a sticky note for this graphic. Next to the highlights is the option to search the file, so you can search any of the text. So let's just say fun, because this paper is all about fun. We've got fun and it's highlighting just as you would expect from a search. Click on the arrow and it navigates you to all of the places it says fun. But if we go to the right, you can see view notes, similar to the expand bar from the last slide. And here we have all of the notes being the highlights. Left click, and then it brings up that conversation that I had with AI. Left click, brings up the point. No comments on that one. You can sort through the notes, most recent annotations, least recent annotations, most recent comments, least recent comments, or by type of highlight. So let's have a look at this AI, but I'm not going to use the one that I've already used AI on. Let's use this one, the 11 fun factors comprised of 81 determinants. Well, it gives us a nice little tip there. It says use @ to chat with AI. So I'm going to type @ and it gives us lots of different options. If I click on one, it then tells me whether I can use that AI or not. So if we click on upgrade plan, you can see the free starter plan has standard AI models, but no advanced AI models or API access. Whereas the professional, you can see you get the advanced AI models, which is more likely to give you better answers with AI, similar with the unlimited plan. So let's use a standard model. Let's use Claude 3 and say explain this for me. And you can see what it's done is it's gone through the paper and had a look and see if it can find any other points. So the 11 fun factors and 81 determinants relate to contextual, social, internal, external sources, prioritized well. And there was consensus across the paper, and the key points are the fun integration theory, the fun factors, etc., etc. So it's given me a nice summary of the paper from the point. But again, just going to re-emphasize, AI is an assistant, not a replacement for actually reading the paper and critically thinking about the information shared. But this isn't the only use of AI Afforai has. So if we get rid of this tab and then look in the left ribbon, if we go down from Reference Manager to Research Assistant, there are 3 different options inside of the Research Assistant. The first one, which is document retrieval, is one that's been automatically selected. You can see here, document retrieval. We can go semantic and Google in a second. But what this lets us do is connect files. Let's go for just the effective coaching files. So just these 2. I can then type to start researching anything and again, to reference a paper. You can see the Q tips down the bottom, specify a paper with the @ symbol, or use a slash for a prompt. So let's go slash because I want some help with a prompt. I could summarize a document, or because I've got 2 papers in here, I'm going to compare between 2 different documents. Now, obviously, first paper, I need to actually put a first paper in there. So let's just backspace that, and then put the integrated definition first, and then get rid of the second paper, and then actually put the second paper in, which is actually a book, and then send. And so the AI is going to analyze both of these. One's a paper, one's a book, and it's going to look and compare and find differences between the 2. And so because I've read the paper and read the book, I know the book has a chapter on effective coaching, and that's what AI has detected. There is a definition of effective coaching inside the paper, and the chapter about effective coaching is also brought up. So it's comparing all of those points, which it then discusses in a summary. And then I could ask it another question relating to this, although having really long conversations with AI isn't necessarily best practice, so we want to actually critically review what it is that we're reading. And for those like myself that are unfamiliar with using AI because you don't use AI that much, or you're not sure how to use AI effectively, there is an AI prompt library where you can copy and paste and replace some of the templated prompts. You can see keyword 1, 2, and 3 in there that you can replace for keywords of the papers you're looking for, and I'll leave a link to this in the description below. But coming back to the Research Assistant, if we change from document retrieval to semantic scholar, and then go up and say new chat, now I can use AI to search through Semantic Scholar, and the same works for Google search, but we're going to go with Semantic Scholar here. What is a good definition of effective sports coaching? Send. And here we go, we've got a few answers. Athlete-centered approach to coaching, adaptive and flexible coaching, emphasis on life skills development, evidence-based, reflective practice, all really useful points. And you can see it's got the citation on the desktop. If we left click, we then have the option to upload the paper. So bring it straight in to the reference. So if I left click on upload paper, see uploads coming in. And then if we go back to our reference manager, you can see there it is. So if we come back to the chat, I can add in some of these papers, continue the conversation, and really start to explore the topic whilst I'm writing an academic paper or PhD thesis or lit review or whatever it is that you're doing. But something to just keep note of is when you start adding papers and uploading more and more and more, it does take up storage. So in the left ribbon, you can see there is a storage bar, 2% filled, just so you're aware not to fill it up too much. And there are also shortcuts to help you navigate around far quicker than if you were to use your mouse like I've been doing in the video. And then something else Afforai offers is you can see I'm on Microsoft Word online, and if I go in the Home tab to add-ins, then go to more add-ins, go to my add-ins, and then upload my add-ins, it then gives me the option to upload any sort of add-in. In the Afforai Help Center, how to install Afforai site extension, I'll leave a link in the description below. If we scroll all the way down to step 5, you can see this is where we're at. If I click on this link, it opens up an .xml file, which if I download, so download anyway, I can then come back to Afforai, go to Browse, go to my Downloads folder, and then click on Afforai Site Extension, Open, and then Upload. And now you can see Afforai Site Extension has been installed in the online version of Word. So when I click on Site Extension, it then gives me all of the citations, the papers that I have inside of my Afforai library. Just bear in mind, you may need to actually log into Afforai. So if I click on this first one, it gives me the citation, and I can place to the cursor position, and there it is. Now it's added in the citation. And all of this helps the research process when it comes to finding sources, talking with sources, understanding sources, and then actually citing them in whatever paper it is that you're writing. So to find out more and to have a look at the tool, look at the links in the description below.